How can you bring a story that in TV is 30 seconds and transform that in an experience that it has to keep users engaged for 3 weeks? It's a big challenge, and we develop all the experiences in digital with that connecting tissue in mind, but created for digital audiences, not only for them to watch, but for them to experience, to play with it, to interact with it, etc.
It's not easy to keep a digital audience engaged. And it's especially hard when the product you're trying to engage them with is produce. And yet, Avocados from Mexico has set a gold standard for what it means to build a funnel and engage an online audience, and it has somehow found the secret recipe for success, and also for guacamole. On this episode of Up Next in Commerce, I was so excited to chat with Ivonne Kinser, the head of digital marketing and e-commerce for Avocados from Mexico. We dove into her many tales about how the company has used out-of-the-box ideas to take something that rarely gets marketing love, aka produce, and turned it into must-engage-with content. She took us behind the scenes of creating one of the top digital campaigns for multiple Super Bowls. And she dove into what the future of digital marketing looks like, including why Avocados from Mexico has been ahead of the trends when it comes to things like NFTs and blockchain. This episode was an amazing one that I have now referenced at least 7 times throughout some of the other episodes, because what they're doing with this company is wild, and I loved every second of it. Enjoy the episode. Before we dive into the episode, I want to let you in on a little secret. Did you know that Mission has the #1 e-commerce newsletter? It's amazing. It has really good news and insights and case studies that you will not find anywhere else. So go subscribe. mission.org/upnextincommerce. All right, on to the show. Really quick, I want to say thank you to our awesome sponsor, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. And I'm going to allow them to give you the inside scoop into some of the findings from their most recent State of Commerce report.
Hi, this is John from Salesforce. Did you know that companies of all sizes and industries power their digital customer journeys with Commerce Cloud? Salesforce Commerce Cloud delivers B2B and B2C commerce, as well as order management around the globe. And with Commerce Cloud, you can engage with your customers anywhere and personalize interactions everywhere. Scale and innovate with ease and drive some serious growth for your business. And speaking of innovation, we recently surveyed nearly 1,400 commerce leaders and analyzed the consumer shopping and business buying behavior of more than 1 billion customers worldwide. And we uncovered emerging trends that will influence how companies can be successful and stay ahead in this ever-evolving landscape. To check out the trends we discovered, go to sfdc.co/commerce insights. That's sfdc.co/commerce insights, one word.
Hey there, and welcome back to Up Next in Commerce. This is your host, Stephanie Postal, CEO at Mission.org. Today on the show, we have Ivonne Kinser, who currently serves as the head of digital marketing and e-commerce for Avocados from Mexico. Ivonne, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for the invite.
Yes, so happy to have you on. I think I just spent an hour going through your guys' website, and then I got hungry, and I realized it's probably not best to have avocados and salsa right before an interview, so we'll see how it goes. I was willing to take the risk.
Maybe it's a good thing because you can always go for an avocado.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So before we dive into Avocados from Mexico, I was hoping you could touch on your background a bit. I saw that you moved from Venezuela to Dallas in 2001, and I thought that would be a fun point to jump off on, hearing a bit about, what inspired that move and what brought you here.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it now, that was a long, long time ago. I came and my first job here in Dallas. I have been here for over 20 years, or 20 years this year, actually. And I oversaw over 20 countries, the campaign of, or the advertising for American Airlines across 20 countries in Latin America. And I was there for a long time, I think relatively. I was there for about 5 years before I went to the research group in Dallas. Then, I started going from agency to brands and brands to agency. I like both sides of the business. until a point where I made a decision and I really liked to stay on the brand side. So I stayed there. And right now I have been with Avocados from Mexico for 7 years now.
Wow. That's amazing. So what pulled you to Avocados from Mexico? Because when you look at, your background and what you just went through, it seems like such an interesting jump. And yeah, what was the draw there?
It is interesting, and that's a great story. My career is full of stories, but this one is one of my favorite ones because I was also on the brand side with American Airlines. After managing their account on the agency side, I went to the brand, then Hagar Company. For a while, I went on my own. I was very curious about entrepreneurship, just kind of implementing my own ideas. It went great. It was on the fashion side. It went great, but I really missed the security and the stability of the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when I went back then and went to Hagar Clothing and then Avocados from Mexico. But to your question, my point is that fresh produce was nowhere in my experience or in my career. I was in transportation, telecommunications, fashion, apparel, retail, like the minimum experience in the fresh produce category. And then the recruiter of Avocados from Mexico contacted me because they were starting the company actually, which is the marketing arm of two organizations, the growers and exporters of avocados from Mexico in Mexico, and the importers and packers and distributors of avocados from Mexico, Has Avocado in the United States. They came together and created a marketing arm to market their products, avocados coming from Mexico. So at that point, they appointed the president, who is my boss, Alvaro Luque, and he has been there, from the beginning, 2014, 13. And the recruiter contacted me and asked me if I was interested in going and speaking with them, with Alvaro. And I was like, what? Say, what am I going to do in avocados? I mean, I have, and that was before the first Super Bowl. So I didn't even know that brand existed or anything.
Yep.
She said, just go and talk to him. And if you're not interested, then fine. But I think that you will like it because it's a very entrepreneurial organization. It's a very forward thinking, and he is looking to really make an impact in the marketing industry. So that got me curious, and I went and talked to him, and I was fascinated with his vision. He told me the magic words. He say, I'm looking for someone to build the digital marketing department from the ground up. And when I told him, like, why me? I don't have any experience in the category. He told me that he was not looking for someone with the experience, but he was looking for someone with solid expertise in the digital marketing side of the business, who was very creative and who will be able to do what nobody else has done. And those are my magic worlds. I'm very creative. I love creative freedom and do exactly that, what nobody else have done. And besides, is one of the very, very few cases in marketing where the marketing budget increases year over year because it's proportional to the sales volume, and the sales volume of avocados have been growing year over year since 2007 and especially since 2013. So I was sold and I have been there.
That's great. Yeah. Such a good story. And it's so interesting too, when I think about like other produce items in a grocery store, you would never even think like, oh, this avocado bag has a whole content strategy behind it. And they do Super Bowl commercials, and like the stuff that you guys are doing to me seems so innovative. Like you're taking all the risks, you're trying things. But what did it look like before you joined? Like how were they marketing and selling avocados? Like what was the landscape like before maybe they entered the digital world?
So when I started there, that was 2014, there was no digital marketing department. We had a social media, we were a Facebook page, and we have a few bloggers creating content, but I think that was about it. then I started in September, and my first assignment was, okay, now you have to build a Super Bowl digital campaign.
First assignment, Super Bowl.
Yeah, whatever that means, right? But what has been very exciting about it is that we were talking offline before, there was no preconceived notion of how a marketing practice should be. I think that is what has allowed us to do everything that we have done, because nobody have ever say, oh, no, that's not the way we do things here. There was nothing. So we start creating, at least I can speak for my department, that I start creating the marketing department that I thought, and I think right now, that is the right for this time. One of the things that a lot of companies do is to become complacent and keep doing things the way they have been doing it for years without even realizing they are doing that. In our case, there was nothing. So it was kind of a blank slate for us to build whatever our imagination can see. And like I was saying, my first assignment was, we're in September. I started in September, right? Super Bowl is next February. And building a campaign, you cannot build a campaign, it's just 2 weeks. So was literally my first assignment is now you have to build a Super Bowl campaign. And it was the first time we went to the Super Bowl with a TV spot. So I did what I thought that it was best, and not having experience of what even means to be a winning Super Bowl campaign, right? I just did, put a lot of love and passion into that, but did the best I could. And then I remembered that the very next day after the Super Bowl, I had a call from one of my agencies and says, congratulations for the digital campaign. And I say, why? What for? What happened? They say it was number 2 after Procter & Gamble.
Wow.
What does that mean? And then it was in terms of the most social interactions, the campaign with the bigger buzz after Procter & Gamble. Imagine that. And that was the first year. After that, we launched 6 more. And every single year, we were either the one digital campaign or top 2 digital campaign. Of course, now I knew, okay, somebody is measuring this. We're very competitive. And then, we purposefully look for that first and second place. But, the first year happened just spontaneously. We didn't even try.
I mean, I want to dive more into that because I just watched your Super Bowl commercial from 2020. And it was so funny about, what your avocado needs. It needs a helmet. It needs, a baby carrier for it so it gets more skin to skin contact. I mean, it was really good, like writing and super funny, which I feel like sometimes I don't always laugh at things. It actually was giving me a good belly laugh. And I want to hear how you go about developing content in a way that you did, especially with, your Super Bowl commercials that are winning awards and, coming in number 2. Like, how do you guys even start creating that campaign from scratch to make it connect with a lot of people?
Yeah, that I will say the most challenging thing about the Super Bowl is connecting that content across the different departments and disciplines, because the concept of the TV spot comes from the brand team and the brand agency. We're, like I mentioned before, we're very entrepreneurial organization, so pretty much every lead of every department gets to choose their advertising partners, whomever you feel more comfortable working with for whatever reason, based on expertise or closeness or whatever it is. So then we have to, when the brand team define what is going to be our theme, and they go to market to test 3 or 4 options, and then they decide this is the commercial we're going out with. Then they give that to the digital team, to my team, and I share it with my agencies, and we start concepting the digital campaign. And the digital campaign have to be able to stand alone and live on its own, stand on its own, but it has to have some connecting tissue with the TV spot. It has to look like the same story, but it's a huge challenge, because how can you bring a story that in TV is 30 seconds and transform that in an experience that it has to keep users engaged for 3 weeks, because that's the time, when we launch the digital campaign until the game day is about 2-3 weeks. So it's a big challenge, and we develop all the experiences in digital with that connecting tissue in mind, but created for digital audiences, not only for them to watch, but for them to experience, to play with it, to interact with it, etc.
How do you think about building out a call to action that gets people to go back to your website? Because oftentimes, I watch these Super Bowl commercials and I definitely have more brand love towards, the brands that make really good, engaging or funny content. But I don't know if I've always felt drawn to, go right over to the website. Like, how do you think about making it, a funnel that's actually going to convert and pull people into your avocado community?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the story. I tell you, I have many stories about the Super Bowl, but let me tell you one that will illustrate a great example. Years ago, we also had a float in the Thanksgiving Macy's parade, and it was the same dynamic. The brand team, who also manages PR, has this project or this idea that to go do the Thanksgiving Macy's parade with a float. So we had a float. Then the CEO comes to my team and say, hey, we're doing this in brand. So what you guys have to do is to create a digital campaign to go with this float on Thanksgiving Day, but it's going to launch 3 weeks before. So what we did is how we can do, so users keep coming back after 3 weeks every day, right? Because you want them to come every day and participate every day and interact every day. So what we did is that we developed an interactive map, and the story was that we're bringing the float from Michoacan, Mexico, from where our avocados come from, all the way to New York. And you will see how it's stopping in key cities across the United States, from Mexico all the way to New York City. So in each city, we have videos, we had, what are we doing in that video, in that city, et cetera, et cetera. But the key was that the only way the float can move is when users tweet or hashtag. So the more they tweet, the faster the float goes to New York. And we know that we have to be in New York by a certain day. So,
wow.
Users were so excited about it that the day of the parade, we were monitoring the conversation online, and you could see the excitement and users saying, that's my float. And that was the most rewarding feeling, because they felt that was their float because they brought it from Mexico. And just to, wrap up the story, we deliver more impressions of our campaign than the Macy's parade hashtag.
That's impressive and crazy.
Yeah. And it was just, how the power of engaging the audiences. They work on your behalf. And because we don't have the dollars that, the multi-billion-dollar brands have to compete in this type of competition, if you call it, like the Super Bowl, for example. But we still have been top 1 and top 2 in terms of the most talked about brands. And it's because we engage the users and they do it for us.
That's why when I was digging into this Avocados from Mexico company, it was so exciting. Because at first I'm like, oh, it's a company about avocados. And I started seeing all these things you're doing. I'm like, whoa, they are really pushing the limits when it comes to marketing and being super creative of like how to pull people into these funnels and get them engaging. And it's super impressive. How do you think about the ROI around a Super Bowl commercial versus a float in the parade? Like, what should the ROI look like, or what should companies be going after when thinking about these really, big moonshot level marketing campaigns?
So every company is different and every company has different goals, right? We don't manage our sales. We're a marketing organization, but our job as a marketing organization, we have 2 objectives, which is build the brand Avocados from Mexico in the US and increase the demand of avocado from Mexico in the US. So when we create these campaigns that has an enormous buzz, what we want to do is to put avocados top of mind. When you have, and I give you the examples of our Super Bowl campaigns, when you have, for example, 7 billion impressions, that was Super Bowl this year, 7 billion potential impressions on social media. Yes, I mean, you can tell the consumer heard about avocado from Mexico a whole lot. Mm-hmm. So when they go to the grocery store, you're top of mind. And our conversation, of course, is very strategic. So we kind of wrap our conversation around a fun story, but really in the core of it, there's recipes, there's conversations about how to consume the avocado. In Super Bowl, for example, is the guacamole. We talk a lot about guacamole in Super Bowl. There's a research company called YouGov. The previous 2 years, they did a kind of a survey 1 month after the Super Bowl, and they publish the results, and they say the winning brands 1 month after the Super Bowl. And Avocados from Mexico also is among the top 1 or top 2 in terms of purchase intention. Purchase intention increase even a month after the Super Bowl. We're talking about billions of impressions in social media, right? And then you may think, I mean, what is even an impression? Who cares? It is important because that huge conversation that happened in social media is just a reflection of users engaged talking about it. And when we go to, for example, and check the Google trends, how the searches for avocados from Mexico, the brand name, the search for the brand name, the peaks overlap. When our conversation on social media is very, very high, you also see those peaks of avocados from Mexico, the brand name searches, very, very high. So yes, I mean, all this huge conversation that we create with campaigns like Super Bowl, Cinco de Mayo, and Thanksgiving Macy's Parade, it really impacts the interest for the brand. So going back to our objectives, which is build the avocado from Mexico brand in the US, check. And increasing the demand of avocados from Mexico in the US, check, because we have seen also how this YouGov, for example, is one of the companies that have shown the increase in purchase intention.
Thinking about all these marketing campaigns that you've done, what is one of the more risky ones that you've done that actually ended up working, where maybe, people on your team were like, that one's not going to pay off?
One thing that I always start thinking even a year before the next Super Bowl is what kind of technology I'm going to integrate in the activation. I think that we live in a world that is dominated, and I say this in a very positive way. I believe in technology as a positive force to move the industry forward. So, and there's new technologies every year, and I see the technology not as a shiny object, at least not all of them, but as a, like I say, is what is moving the world forward and the marketing industry forward. So I start thinking about what technology I'm going to bring the next year. So last year, and it was actually that campaign that you referred at the beginning, I wanted to bring the bottoms that right now are super, super popular right now.
What is it?
NFT, or they call it also NFT. Have you heard about NFT?
I mean, I've heard of NFTs like in the non-fungible tokens, like that one, and like exactly. The Top Shot. Okay, got it. All right.
So then those are super, super popular right now. Uh-huh. Well, in 2020, the other name is bottoms.
Okay.
In 2020, we actually were the first, one of the first brands that used that as a marketing tactic. And we were the first brand to put one of our advertising assets in the blockchain. And that was even before everybody started about it.
That's so early. You guys are like ahead of every trend, basically. I mean, have you done AR already? I was thinking like you have to probably have an augmented reality experience. With your avocado, you guys have done everything.
We did actually was part of that same strategy. So what happened is that like that last year, say, well, I want to do something with NFT. Let's call it NFT, even though, we call it Bottoms last year, but NFT. And we did, but what it makes so challenging to be early adopter or kind of a trailblazer that you're bringing something that it hasn't been done before is that it's really, really hard to explain and get and sell the idea within the organization. Is like, we're putting money toward this, we're allocating budget toward this, and it's something nobody have done before. Is that gonna work? And honestly, the answer is, I don't know. I mean, how can you know? You don't know if it's going to work. But what we do is, when we experiment with that kind of things, we experiment cheap, as much as we can, and we are really well prepared to pivot if we need it. So my agencies, and when I select my agency partners, it has to be someone that is extremely fast moving and can just with a call shift directions, because if not, it wouldn't work for the type of approaches that we take. When you can move that fast, and when you have partners that can move that fast, the risk is minimum, because we're in the digital space, you can course correct in real time and you're going to be fine. The problem is when you don't have the right partner that can move that fast, and that the campaign is failing, or there's room for improvement, or it needs to be optimized, and you cannot react quickly. But, it was a big success in terms of it created a lot of buzz and a lot of media talk about it. And a lot of consumers came and visit our site and participate in our games because of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me a bit more about the NFT strategy. I mean, I understand the concept of them, putting on the blockchain, a scarcity thing, limited quantity. But what were you actually putting on the blockchain? And are you going to do it again in 2021 now that more people understand the concept of it because of the NBA Top Shot stuff that really, put it on the radar of a lot of people who maybe wouldn't have known about it before?
Yeah, so what we did is kind of a mix between augmented reality. Actually, the idea started with augmented reality. So users will sign up to get a digital wallet, and then they will go to Walmart, for example, and then they will find digital avocados all over, and they will capture the digital avocados with the augmented reality and save them to their digital wallet.
Like a Pokemon Go kind of game?
Kind of,
okay.
Yes, exactly like that. So they will collect the avocados and then exchange it for every avocado that they collect is a point. So it was part of like a big game. So, but when one of those was a crown that you also saw in the TV spot. And that crown also, we place it in the, to develop these kind of objects, it requires special coding. Yep. So we code it, and and then users will participate to win it. And the winner, we will send them the instructions. And it was an object that could be placed in the blockchain, and they could then sell it or collect it or save it for later, or whatever they wanted to do. So it was like testing the waters without going all in. We want to do, and I think that that's one of our goals as a company, is just, if anything is going to be tested out there in marketing in the fresh produce industry, we want to lead that. Mm-hmm. And of course, we saw this is coming at some point. In fact, it came a year later, but we know this is coming in marketing. We have to do this. So we did that the previous year. Just to name another technology, we built an experience with IBM Watson. And that's another great story, because it was such a creative implementation of Watson that even IBM contacted me to her. How do you guys do this? Tell me the story and whatever. And then they send an email to all their subscribers using our campaign as a kind of a case story, like, look how creative Avocados from Mexico is using Watson in a marketing campaign, because it was a totally unexpected application of Watson artificial intelligence tool.
Wow. I mean, you're basically giving me a peek into the future and just thinking like, I want to know what you're thinking at all times, because you probably are thinking 2 to 3 years ahead of what other brands, when it comes to a marketing and technology perspective, are even thinking about right now. So what are you focused on over the next year or two? Like, what are you guys betting on that maybe other people would look at you be like, Ivonne, that's definitely not going to play out. No one's interested in that. Like, what are you guys shooting for right now or focused on building from a marketing campaign perspective?
Yeah, so 2 things I want to say about that. First, let me tell you, we're in the middle of planning 2022 planning. Our fiscal year ends in June and it starts in July. So we're right now, our planning process is in full swing. So in one of the first meeting, the opening meeting, where I get to talk to my team before they start even thinking about what are we going to do for next year, I wanted to make very clear where has to be our focus. And I told them, and something that is, I think, it serves as a guide. When we look at the future, we need to see what are those forces moving us toward the future, instead of looking at what is trending, because I wanted them to differentiate what are the trends and what are the forces. The trends are now and they may fade, but the forces are what is going to build the future. In this case, right now where we are, I will say the forces are definitely artificial intelligence, machine learning, data. 5G is going to change the way we consume content and the way we consume video. The trends, for example, on the other side are gaming. In that side is trending right now. I will put in-home fitness. I will put, it's a trend. It may be permanent, but it's not something so transformational as it is artificial intelligence, data, and machine learning. So what are we focusing in the future? We just launched a platform called Avocado Nation. It's an intelligent platform with a artificial intelligence and machine learning engine at the core of it. We call it the Netflix of avocados because it has kind of the same intelligence power, obviously much smaller than Netflix, but the inspiration was the way Netflix deliver personalized content to their consumers. And as most of the content production companies, they have like 30% success rate in the shows that they put out there. I believe that the last number that I saw for Netflix is like 70%. So inspired with that, we say we want to create the Netflix of avocados. And that's just one of the portions of this intelligent platform. And we have right now over 100 videos. Our goal is to get to 1,000 videos eventually. And it's videos like any format, short videos, long videos, funny, series of videos that it could go from a dating show to a recipe show, all kind of videos to give the consumers a variety of content for them to interact with. And in the meantime, the machine is learning from those interactions and helping us to make predictions in the future about what is the content that our first-party data is more engaged with.
I was just going to say the first-party data access is that a big driving force behind creating an entire platform like this?
Big driving. Actually, that was the purpose because, with all third-party cookies going away and all that, we have been working on that for several years now. And right now we have over 100 million users on our consumer data platform. And we have a custom audience, that's our core audience, about 30 million consumers. So we already have Again, we have been preparing for this since 2015, talking about looking toward the future. And when all this happened, a lot of brands are scrambling to get ready quickly. You're never complete with, I'm done building my audience. That's something that the machine keeps learning, the algorithm keeps learning. But we're in a very, very good shape in terms of first-party data.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's interesting too that you approach the platform in a way, like an AI first focused way where, I talk to and hear from a lot of brands, and many of them are, very focused on content, creating their own series and figuring out how to make that work for the company. But it's very interesting hearing that you're essentially approaching it like a Netflix style model. And even thinking back to I don't know if you remember the earlier Netflix days when they started coming out with their own originals and people were like, they're not good. It's like the whole time they were just using that as training data. They were learning what we like. They were learning, what makes for a good series. What kind of format are people looking for? And I love how you guys are approaching your platform with that as a focus first, instead of trying to figure it out afterwards and figure out, why aren't people interacting? Why aren't they loving this series? Super smart.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I have my agency. I have several agency partners, but I have one that is over all the development and optimization of the website, etc. And I told them this is an ongoing project. It's going to be always an ongoing project and I want to iterate every single week because the algorithms are learning. And as we learned about how users are interacting, there's always going to be something to optimize and change and improve the user experience and the user journey. So it's kind of a mind shift because you are iterating and changing, tweaking. It doesn't mean that the platform is broken. It means that there's always the consumer behavior is changing. And if you forget about that and just launch something and leave it there, it's going to be outdated next month. Mm-hmm. So you have to change as your consumer expectations and preferences change all the time. It never stops.
Yeah. I mean, when thinking about your employee base, it sounds like they're working on a ton. You can be working on Super Bowl commercials. You can be working on day-to-day, like traffic generation. You can be working on an entire content platform where maybe you're trying to bring on new musicians and getting new series created. How do you instill a sense of, creativity and an entrepreneurial spirit in them so that they're willing to kind of jump around and work on all these things?
It's just a lot of fun. I mean, I think that I work with 7 agency partners because I think we do so much and every one of them has a specialization in one of the digital, the areas of digital. And all of them, I think, say that Avocados From Mexico is their most fun account. Mm-hmm. And it's one because, it's a fun brand, but also because they have a lot of creative freedom. I really value creative idea that is also strategic. We're very, very strategic. And, as long as it ties to the strategy, the sky is the limit. Their imagination is their limit. And then we really have fun bringing these crazy ideas. And we do so much that it's impossible for one person to bring, all the good ideas. So everybody has the opportunity to participate and to, lead and manage their own projects. And they work also very collaborative between, all of them and all the agencies. It feels like one big agency working together, but it's really different partners. Mm-hmm. It's all about ownership. When people feel the ownership of a project, is amazing what they can do.
That's awesome. So do you have any advice around working with agencies? Because we've, heard from quite a few people that a lot of them have worked with agencies. They didn't have good experiences. They ended up bringing the creative and the branding and marketing campaigns back in-house. And so how do you go about making sure that you're, setting up a great partnership and finding these agencies like this that, you speak so highly of?
I believe that the agency choice is such a personal choice in the company culture, the culture of the team this agency is going to work with internally, the decision maker within the organization has to be a perfect match with the agency. And with that, I want to say there's not a perfect agency for everybody. Like there's not a one fits all. There's great agencies that may not be a good fit for certain people or certain companies. In my case, and in the case of Avocados from Mexico, just because we have the freedom to select the partners we want to work with, they are a perfect match. And I think that makes a difference. So what is my criteria is that they have to be a very creative agency, which of course, any agency should be, but it's a different kind of creativity. They have to move fast. They have to be nimble. They have to be non-conformist. They have to be, there's so many things that it wouldn't work for us if it wouldn't be that way. That freedom that we have to select our partners should be, any company should have it, because it's like selecting a life partner or selecting a business partner is someone you really have to complement each other and feed.
Yeah, really good advice. All right, well, let's shift over to the lightning round. The lightning round is brought to you by Salesforce Commerce Cloud. This is where I ask a question and you have a minute or less to answer. Are you ready, Ivonne?
Yes.
All right, hard one first. What one thing will have the biggest impact on e-commerce in the next year?
Data.
All right, tell me a bit more. What are you thinking around data?
Data, and I think the companies, any technology company that has anything to do in that field of e-commerce is really fast right now, creating the new best solution. There are things they are working on right now that are going to come out next week or in a month or 2 months that doesn't exist now. And they are building all that based on data they are capturing now as we speak. So I think that data is going to be the big driver for technology capabilities, for how the technology is and users are going to interact with each other. And there's so much data out there. We are learning right now how to organize it and how to activate it. And that knowledge is what is going to be used to build the next generation of e-commerce tools.
Love it. When you want to get into the creative mindset, what do you do to get into that vibe?
I walk.
You walk?
It's very unfortunate what happened to the world in this last year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, saw really sad consequences. But I can tell you, in my case, I think professionally speaking, it was my best year ever. It was my most creative year, my most productive year, because I realized that the way I create is by being close to nature and being with my own thoughts and reflecting on things that I talk with, people in the industry, things that I read, but then going back and retrieve and reflect on those things. I think that everybody should have that space to let their creative power to work.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that. I also, I get very inspired when I'm just out walking and hiking. And I think that's definitely a good way to jumpstart that. If you had a podcast, what would it be about and who would your first guest be?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think it would be definitely something related with technology. It will be about disruptive technology and new solutions. I don't know exactly, it doesn't come to my mind what will be my first guest, but I think that I would love to interview a woman in technology. I think it's a field where women are being very successful, but it was not until recently that they really had a place on the table in that industry. So it will be very interesting to learn how that has been and how it feels to be, one of these top technology companies, preferably if it's a founder of a technology company, and see how she lives and interacts in an industry that only until recently became recognizing female as leaders.
Yep. Oh, that sounds like a good one. I would for sure listen to that. Well, Ivonne, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been really fun to get a peek into some of your marketing and digital strategies. And yeah, it was just really fun feeling like I had a chance to glimpse into the future with you. Where can people find out more about you and Avocados from Mexico?
So Avocados from Mexico on Twitter is Avos from Mexico. And about me, I have the same Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn is all Ivonne Kinser at IVONNEKINER.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Ivonne.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you'll probably also love our e-commerce newsletter. To get it delivered straight to your inbox every week, sign up at mission.org/upnextincommerce.
Up Next in Commerce is brought to you by Salesforce Commerce Cloud and created by the team at mission.org. Subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.